Welcome back. We now are looking at the 5 principles of how to transcend your life in the Transcend Your Life workshop. These 5 principles are universal. There's a lot in them. So I'm just going to go through them slowly and simply. So the bottom line is this: if you don't like parts of what's in your current world, you need then to transcend it. So resisting it isn't going to change it. Whatever you resist, persist. So then it's about transcending it, rising above it. So how do you do that? There's 5 simple principles, and then there's 5 simple steps to move forward in. And I'd like to explain them one by one slowly. So this is how to transcend your world. So the first step is to change 2 things: your thinking and awareness. Now just let me talk briefly about thinking. Your thinking directly affects your success or your limitations in life. I'll say it again. Your thinking, in terms of your current thinking, directly affects your success and your limitations in life. So Henry Ford said, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And there's many, many books written on the power of positive thinking and how you create your reality in your mind, and so on and so on and so on. Now, thinking and creating reality in the mind is only part of the picture. Creating reality from your mind is not a principle of the universe. Let me say it again. Creating something from your mind is not a principle of the universe and how the universe works. Creation in the universe never came from a thought of the mind. I'll say it again. Creation of the universe never came from a thought of the mind. How did the universe come into being? In the book of John, in the beginning, God spoke, uttered. It wasn't in the beginning God thought about. In the beginning God spoke, an utterance, a sound, a vibration. So in the void, which is the beginning, was an utterance, a sound. And the sound was a proclamation: let there be light. And then there started the 6 days of creation. The 7th day God rested and said it was good. So, in the beginning was love. Love made an utterance and begat light. Let there be light. And from light came life. Which is why the 3, love, light, life, are very important, which I'm going to talk about a little later. And they are a trinity that are like a circle. So love is the beginning, love gives off light gives off life, life returns back to love. And then if you want more love in your life, the bridge in between is light. So thinking, what you think determines what happens to you in your life. And sadly, a major fallacy in thinking is that you can create your reality from your mind. That's only half true. You create your unreality from your mind, which becomes your illusionary reality. So when you manifest and you create your reality from your mind, that's partially true, because that's reality for you, which is actually your new unreality that you're creating from your mind. Can you see how it works? Yes. So a very famous writer, philosopher, his name is Krishnamurti. He's now passed away. He's written a lot of books, but his key signature work has a title: Thought is Your Enemy. That's the title of his book. Thought is your enemy. And it is our thinking that derails us. Because what happens is that when you invoke too much thinking, that is the ego at work. And everyone says ego is bad. However, when you take the perspective that ego just is, and you look at what it is, what is ego? Ego is your separate self functioning. It is not your divine self functioning. It is your separate self functioning. It is your lower mind. And what ego does is feed stuff for yourself. So anything that centers around yourself is your ego. However, ego is there to serve a very profound purpose, and that is to create separation and darkness. Ego does not create light. But it's there for a reason, to give contrast in the duality of our world. So it's serving a purpose. Without ego, there is no darkness created. Without darkness created, there is no polarity and duality. And the world that we live in has that polarity and duality. And the polarity and duality goes like the infinity sign. What happens with the infinity sign is this is how it looks like. But what happens is people go around in circles on one side and don't traverse the other side. When you traverse the other side, you have this infinity symbol of yin and yang, light and dark, love and hate going all around. And then when you have this infinity sign, then what happens is you start off and you go through the cycle of love, where love starts from itself, goes out away from itself, and instead of returning back to itself, it goes away into the darkness. It goes through a cycle of darkness. As it goes through a cycle of darkness, it then, as it remains true to its form, on its journey back, it packs the density and intensity of the love that it is, so that when it returns back to its original place, it is magnified and intensified. How does that work? Here's an example. Lots of millions of people go through adversity, and the adversity weighs them down. Occasionally you have a bright star. An example of that is Oprah Winfrey. If you read her biography, she had a horrific childhood. You know, bashed, raped, abused, had a child at 14, all that. So she went through all this adversity, but it didn't hold her down. She was not a victim. She rose above all those circumstances. And what it gave her was an intensity and magnification of love, so that when she rose up to do her TV show, which has been unprecedented that someone in a TV show could run as long as she does, at that high level of claim, because she has the unique ability to connect with the down and outers. So when she gets out there and gives a car to a family in need, she's not like some rich businessman, here, you poor little thing, here's a car. She can connect with them at the heart level because she's been there. So when she does something like that, the energy developed is profound. How did it happen? Because she experienced the duality and polarity of going through what she did. So when she came back and continued to honor the love and light that she is, instead of being a victim of the circumstances, her love then intensified and magnified to allow her to then express who she is. And the result is, you know, the first black woman billionaire in the world. Someone else that did that is Nelson Mandela. He spends 27 years in an African prison. What does he do? Teach all the inmates. Then remaining true to his calling in himself. So the love then magnifies, intensifies. And he waits patiently for the time where he can express himself in terms of who he really is. And what does he do? Become one of the world's greatest statesmen. Highly revered and respected. So this is the example of love going out from itself. However, thinking doesn't allow love to do that. Thinking brings, first of all, judgment. Thinking brings expectation. Thinking brings attachment. So thinking creates those three things in your life that put you in prisons of your mind. And so when you have expectation, judgment, and attachments, you've got ego and you've got thought involved in all that. And when you've got thought and ego involved in all that, then your world becomes constricted and limited. And this is where lack comes in. And then the expression of all that goes into all the ugliness of human society that we see, in terms of the greed, the violence, the stealing, the lies, the cheating, the manipulation, and so on and so on and so on it goes. And it all starts with thinking. However, you cannot stop your thoughts. So, what do you do with thinking? You then go from positive thinking, which is a good thing, but positive thinking is a polarity. Because if you think positive all the time, you are denying the duality of negative thinking, a negative part of the world. So that's not helpful either. Because if you think positive all the time, you then run away from all the shadows of your life. So what you do, you practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is really good, and you practice clear thinking. So what you do is you practice mindfulness and clear thinking, or critical thinking. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is very simply the Buddhist teaching of just being able to sit in observation of what is happening outside, first of all, judgment, expectation, or attachment. So you sit in observation of what's going on. It's mindfulness. Then you allow things to evolve before you draw any conclusions. And then you respond in what's called an equanimous manner. Equanimous manner means that you don't go positive or negative, you just go neutral into it. And a really good test of mindfulness is, what is for your highest good? Where is the gift in the situation, in the adversity? How can light come from darkness? That's mindfulness. Now, clear and critical thinking is using certain principles. First of all, what are the facts? Secondly, what are the presuppositions already in the situation? Thirdly, what is another perspective you can take on the situation? Fourthly, when you look at it, what is really going on? And then fifthly, how are people reacting and responding inappropriately? So you ask those questions in critical and clear thinking, and then things actually change and shift for you. So that's thinking. Now, awareness. Awareness is something that most people do not understand. Now, what is awareness? Awareness is the knowing of your mind, your heart, emotions, and your spirit in the presence of now, in ultimate reality of what's going on. That's awareness. I've got a full mind map on that, which I'll talk to later on awareness, because that's really important. Your awareness is filtered by your mind. Most people do not have full awareness of what's going on. If you did, you would be, in inverted commas, have eyes in the back of your head. And so the awareness that we have typically in our lives is limited by our conditioning, our beliefs, and what our mind sees, not what our eye sees. It's what our mind sees in terms of its interpretation of what is going on. An interesting thing is, there's something called the RAS, the reticular activating system in our brain. You buy a red car, all of a sudden all the red cars on the road turn up in your life. And this is quite common, and this is a common phenomenon with people. So your awareness of what's going on makes a big difference. A simple test of awareness is this. Are you aware of what God is doing in your life today? And if you ask people this question, most people go, duh. And the reason why they go, duh, is because they are stuck in their head. They're stuck in their head because the mind is preoccupied with all the stuff around their world and the stories in their head. Everyone carries a zillion stories in their head. And the story is, I'm no good, so-and-so did this, therefore X, therefore Y, therefore Z, and so on. I can't do this, I can't do that because of. And you have a million stories to justify everything in your life, and that all spins around in your mind. You see? And what's a story? Here's what a story is. S-T-O-R-Y. A story is your soul terminating oneness in reality in you. Now, isn't that a profound explanation of what a story is? We all love stories. Stories stimulate imagination and everything else, so there's a good part about a story. But when you have a story in your mind about an event or an experience, what it really is your soul terminating oneness in reality with you, because every story in your mind separates you from reality. Let me say it again. Every story in your mind separates you from reality. Now, when we talk about reality, there are three types of reality. There's apparent reality, there's observed reality, there's ultimate reality. Those three. Let me give you a little example to demonstrate the difference between all three. Jack and Jill have been married for some time, and they live in a home. Jack goes out to work, Jill stays home and looks after the kids and prepares the evening meal. Looks forward to Jack coming home each day to share the day's, activities and endeavors. One day Jack walks home and he's not happy. He slams the door abruptly, walks straight past her in the kitchen, goes to the living room, buries his head in the newspaper. Jill bursts out into tears. Oh no, I've offended him. He doesn't love me anymore. Apparent reality, Jill sees what Jack's doing, has an expectation of him. He doesn't fulfill that expectation, does the opposite, and she draws the conclusion he doesn't love me anymore. Apparent reality. Observed reality, Jack walks past her, doesn't say anything to her or greet her like he normally does. And he's obviously in a little bit of an agitated state. Observed reality. Ultimate reality, they still love each other. See the difference? And what happens with thinking is we live in apparent reality. And the apparent reality we live in is a result of the stories in our mind that we tell ourselves as conclusions, presuppositions, wrong perceptions of something in our life. So, that's a big one. Now, awareness is about us getting out of our head and into our body and connected with nature and environment and everything around. And awareness can be opened up by one simple exercise. Shifting your vision from focal vision to peripheral vision. Here's what I mean. Focal vision is when you focus on something. Peripheral vision is when you don't focus on something and you look at it, but you are seeing around all the time what's going on. And then being present is about taking in what's around and not just, having things flick by and go still in your head. So if you practice peripheral vision, instead of looking at one thing but taking in, that makes a big difference. And a good way to practice peripheral vision is just go outside in nature and you zero in on a tree, then you zero out and look at the tree in context with everything around. That's peripheral vision. So practicing that makes a difference. The other thing that's good to practice is that when you walk around, everything you see flits by very, very fast. But if you're walking, just turn your head and hold your gaze on something for about 3 seconds. And in 3 seconds, your mind, when you exercise peripheral vision, can take a snapshot of that entire scene and note what you see in 3 seconds. It's profound what you see in 3 seconds. And so these are little exercises where you can expand your awareness. There's many, many more in terms of expanding your awareness. However, expanding your awareness is recognizing that awareness is the exercise of taking in information and connecting with what's going on at mind, soul, heart, feelings, and spirit level. So you are aware of what's going on with all your senses. You're aware of how you feel about what's going on. And you're aware about the spiritual dimension of what's happening. In other words, where is God in now? So that's awareness. So you can see this one is simple, but there's a lot of depth and detail in it in just step 1. Change your thinking and awareness. So that's the first thing. The second principle is this. Second principle is this. So change how you play life, lifestyle. What I find for me and for CN, our lives are expanding. So the way we play life is going to a whole different level, and our lifestyle has changed dramatically. Before I came into her life revolved around her home. Her beautiful home. She would just do her work. Clients would come every day. Every day her routine would be the same. She'd wake up, she'd walk down the river, do a meditation, spend time pottering around the house, enjoying her cat, doing the cooking. She'd have a client turn up at 1 o'clock. She'd do her regression with the client through the evening. She'd have something to eat, go to bed. And she'd have anything between 5 to 7 clients a week, and that was her life. And then she said to Source, okay, I'm ready to step up. And one of the things about life is be careful what you ask for, because you might get much more than you bargain for. So she said that. And then they sent me into her life in October 2011. I turn up in her life and her world just changes dramatically. And so 2012, we were functioning as a couple at one level. 2013 it went to another level. 2014 has gone to another level. So we've changed how we function in life, and our lifestyles changed dramatically. We're doing a lot more travel, we're seeing a lot more people, we're doing a lot more expos, and life has expanded to a whole new level that we never dreamed of. So if you want to transcend your world, you cannot do that if your lifestyle is exactly the same yesterday as it is today, as it is tomorrow. So if your lifestyle is the same, your world's not going to change. It's still going to be the same. You're going to have the same people you interact with, you're going to have the same Places you go to, you're going to have the same job that you go to Monday to Friday, and so on. But changing your lifestyle doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be throw everything out the window. In 2008, in marriage separation, I had a radical change in lifestyle. I walked out of my home that I was living in for 16 years, gave my former wife everything, drove out of Melbourne with my car and a load of possessions and credit card debt out west to Perth, not knowing what I'm going to go to. So I walked out of absolutely everything. Left the person most dear to me, which was my one and only son as well, in the process. That's now the story. And so, how you play life has 3 levels of how you play life. So, how you play life, do you drive through life? Driving through life is what most people do. When you drive through life, in the way you play life, what happens is this. You have a vehicle, you get from A to B, you have to go on roads that the authorities create for you, you have to obey the rules that are foisted upon you, and you have limitations. Most people drive through life. Nothing wrong with that, it's a way of living. It's how everybody is programmed to live their life. When you drive through life, you have a vehicle called your job. Your job gets you from A to B, but it's limited in terms of travel and distance. And hopefully you can have enough money from your job after paying bills, putting the kids to school, and paying for food expenses and bills and your taxes to go on one holiday a year. When you have a job, you only have 4 weeks annual leave, and plus the statutory holidays at Easter time and Christmas and so on, etc. And so when you drive through life, it is just on a 2-dimensional plane, and you are very limited in where you can go, what you can do. So most people play life at that level. The second level people can play life is they can flow through life. When you flow through life, you understand the rules of the game a bit better. So instead of being a pawn on the chessboard, you are a little like the chess master, and you have more control of what goes on, etc. You know, command the game. And so when you are a queen or a king, you have a lot more power within the chessboard. And these are the people that have been successful in business, that have amassed power and influence in this world. So life tends to flow a little better for them because they're not restricted in a job. They can travel around the world, they've got plenty of money, they can buy beautiful cars and homes and yachts and so on. They've got plenty of publicity and influence, and they can go to places the average person can't go. So these people tend to flow in life. However, that has 2 limitations. When you flow in life, you are limited both by the forces of gravity, so they still have to function according to the rules of this world. And the second issue with flowing is that when you come against an obstacle, you have to go around it. They're the 2 limitations of flowing through life. So that's another way to function. And of course, there's many steps in between. The ultimate way you can play life is this: to flow through life. And flowing through life is quite profound, because when you float through life, you are like a leaf being carried by the wind, tossed and turned. You can go up, you can go down, you can go all over the place. However, you are not limited by gravity, neither are you limited by any obstacles. And what does it mean to float through life? F-L-O-A-T. F is fulfilled. L is love. O is oneness. A is awareness. And T is transcending. So the ultimate level to play life is to float through life. And when you float through life, you are fulfilling love in oneness with awareness that's transcending. How does that look like? Very simple. You wake up each day in gratitude, and you just open yourself up to what the universe will bring in your area and where you go. And when you float through life, you are not attached to a place, to an activity, to a job, to a person. You have freedom to be nimble and to move around. However, floating through life like a leaf means that you don't have a tree that you're attached to. Not for everybody, but this is what you can have and be. Interesting thing is that once you experience this, you won't want anything else. When you are a leaf floating in the air and the wind of the Spirit carries you to all sorts of experiences, people and places beyond your dreams, then being a leaf attached to a tree tends to be a bit boring after a while. So that's the way you can play life. So coming back to change how you play life lifestyle, the starting point is something very small. For you to change the way you play life, you only have to start doing a few small things in your life. For example, if you don't meditate, spend 15 minutes a day meditating. If you can't spend 15 minutes a day meditating, spend 15 minutes every 2 days. You can't do it 3 times a week, do it twice a week. However, do it regularly. And that small change will start to permeate through your life. And then you institute other changes, but you keep that habit going. And so life is all about creating empowering habits and things that you do in terms of routine that serve you. Make a big difference. I have a habit of going to the beach as often as I can. I'm heading down there on Monday. And then I go for a period of time when I don't have any exercise, then I go hit the gym. Because I know I need to do that. And so, having things to change your life. You can go and have a series of lucia sessions. That'll shift your life up to a whole different level in terms of your mind-body functioning. So there's little things you can do to change your life. So then the question is this, very simple. What are 3 things in your life now that don't serve you that you can drop without it being dramatic, that are minor, that don't serve you? And what are 3 things that you can do that you're not doing to replace them with that are going to serve you? 3 small things. Simple question. So when you do that exercise, what do you come up with? The third point in terms of how to transcend your world is what we already started doing. Which is to discover who you really are. You are not what you think. You are not what you wear. You are not what you own. You are not what you achieve. You are not the family around you. You are not your successes, your failures, or any of all that. You are much, much more than that. And if you were to define who you are a spiritual being, having a human experience. Or you are a universal being, which is even better description. Having a spiritual experience here on this earth for a time like this. And so when you look at yourself, again, it's about the perspective of who you are. And when you discover who you are in its fullness, whatever that means, then the perception of yourself will change, the attraction of what you bring in your world will change, the direction and expression of life will change. So it gets back to the principle of your perspective on your position determines your power. So who are you and where are you? Are you a pauper or are you a king or queen? So how and who you see yourself makes a big difference to what's happening in your life. So that's discovering who you really are. And there are many things that you can do to do this. Reflection is a really good thing. And doing some past life work is also useful. Past life work is finding someone that is skilled in this area and can go back and help you tune into where you've been. That gives you a clue to who you are. So there's all this discovery. And the interesting thing is, when you journey into your inner world, you then discover a lot of treasure there. If you want to know what this world's like, you don't just travel all the countries of the world. The countries of all the world is only an eighth of this world planet. On the surface is 7/8 of this planet as ocean. So if you want to know really what this planet's about, you've got to do some deep diving and checking out the ocean. And then when you ask how deep is the ocean, my gosh, you know, fathoms, very, very deep. The deepest part of the planet is something called Challenger Deep, which is a place in the ocean, I believe it's in the Pacific. It's like 36,000 feet down. And the deeper you go, the more changes that you see. So how deep is your inner world? Well, when you go into your inner world, inside you, there's actually no limit. Because right at the bottom of the inner world, you get to who you are as a spark of consciousness of Creator. And there's no limit to that. So that's what happens when you discover yourself. And part of that is going on an inner journey. And the inner journey is the longest journey. So, principle number 4 is to find and climb your highest potential. We've already started that process. When I've done the quantum mapping exercise on your passions, you already have there a vision, a snapshot, a sense, a resonance of your highest potential. How do you know that's true? Is when I ask you the question, how would you like to spend the rest of your life expressing da-da-da-da-da, which is your core passions? And then when you say to me 10 out of 10, doesn't get better than that. And not only is the response 10 out of 10, your entire body lights up as you think about it and you feel this amazing resonance in your body. That's your highest potential. So once you find it, then you've got to climb it. Climb it is going down that particular path. And we've started that exercise with the next level of mapping, whereby your 3 core passions, we've done the first map of that, and then there's the other 2 words that you can do over today and tomorrow. And once you do all those 3, in there will be what you can do next. Because the biggest question everyone says is, how do I get out of where I am? You know, I'm stuck in my job. I can't leave my job because I need money to pay the bills, etc. No sweat. You don't leave your job. What you do is you look at your core passions, and within your core passions, you identify something you can do that is really resonating with your heart, your passions, and you start doing work on it to go create value. I've done this exercise with thousands of people over the last 10 years. And every time I do it, in their core passions, when you unpack those 3 words to another 3 maps, the next level down, in there is the genesis of a multi-million-dollar business for everybody, should they go down that path. And a few people I've done it with, what's come out, I went, oh my God, this isn't a multi-million-dollar business, this is a billion-dollar business. And then I've said to a couple of people, if I didn't have my own, I'd steal yours, is that good? So this is how this exercise can happen. And then once you've got it, it's about what are you doing about it? And so life is very much not just action. You have to have activity with passion and purpose. So activity with passion and purpose first starts from your beingness of who you are. Not up here, oh, I think I'm going to do this, I'm going to set a goal for this, and off I go. If you sit in the beingness of who you are, allow things to turn up in your space, and then you respond from this space. That is the best approach. Then when you do that, magic happens in your life. It's profound. So, the fifth principle is this. Okay. The fifth principle is transcend your mind and live in love and light. So again, it's transcend your mind. It's learning how to park your conscious mind. If people ask me what's the key to your success or what's the key to your being able to do the things that you do, and the one key thing I say to people is the ability I've learned to park my conscious mind, to put it there, out of the way, and so then I can function in spirit, in my unconscious mind, in my higher self, with my intuition, inspiration. So learning to do that's been a long journey. But I can do it like that now. I don't have to, do all sorts of exercises to still the mind. A lot of people can't still their mind. They're in their head all the time. And this is part of the rigors of modern living in the city and having all the media bombard you with stuff. Watching TV is one of the worst things you can do for your mind, because it's mindless stuff on the screen, and the programming that comes through is not edifying or helping you. Now, what is your mind? M-I-N-D. Your mind is mental interactions feeding natural discourses. That's what your mind is. And so, mental interactions, what's going on in your head, your ego, your stories, your belief patterns, and so on. And that feeds natural discourses. Natural discourses is what you're looking to express out of what's going on in your head. So that's what your mind is. Now the mind's not bad, it's just like a tool. And look upon your mind and ego like a wild stallion. And then the issue is, who controls who? Does your mind and ego drive you, or do you direct your mind and ego? So once you're in control of your mind and ego, they become very powerful tools for you to help you. So here are the 5 principles involved in how to transcend your world. Taking time to unpack all that. Any questions?
It all takes time, doesn't it?
It does take time to do all that. It doesn't happen immediately, and it's a process, it's a journey. Every journey takes time. Does it make sense?
Yes, very much.
Yes. Absolutely amazing. Because last time you only gave us the 5 principles, you didn't explain them, and just the information is just absolutely beautiful.
So that's why I wanted to do that this time, to just unpack that for you. Okay? I'll now pause at this point, then clean the board.